In today's lecture, we're going to talk about job evaluation. So let's get started. Job evaluation refers to the formal, systematic means by which used to identify the relative worth of jobs within organizations. So this is the formal process that HR and hiring managers undergo when they're trying to determine how much a job is worth to the organization. And this ties directly into how much a person should be compensated for in the job. And part of this refers to looking at what we call compensatable factors. So what are the things that the person is doing in this job which deserve to be compensated for? You can think of it as, are these revenue earning activities that the employee is undergoing or engaging in as part of this job, and how much is that worth to the company? How much should we pay for those services? What's our return on investment for those activities? This chart here lays out the overall process for compensation administration. It starts off with a job analysis. We talked about that in previous chapters, right? And then we get into trying to determine the value of the job. So you may use job evaluations, you may use market pricing, you can use paid surveys. These are all means of trying to understand what's the economic worth or value of this particular position. That ties into your pay structure, which is directly influenced by the company's policies and procedures regarding compensation. And then you have the actual salary or the total rewards that you're going to pay a person to work in that job. What their total rewards, the amount of their total rewards is heavily influenced by their performance appraisal. So generally people who have strong performance appraisals also get pay raises. As a result of the appraisal process, individuals who are working the same job can in fact get paid different wages um, because compensation raises and whatnot can be affected by a person's performance appraisal. After that, you simply implement, communicate, and monitor the overall system that's used to develop and compensate employees. Market pricing refers to using market data, uh, market pay data to identify the relative value of jobs based on what other firms are paying. So in this scenario, you're looking at what other companies are paying for work for similar jobs, and you'll base your pay compensation strategy off of that. There's advantages and disadvantages to that. For the sake of time, I'm not going to read through the advantages and disadvantages here in the slide, but I advise you to pause the lecture and read through them yourself. Make sure you're familiar with both of those. I do want to spend a lot of time on this chart because this chart outlines what we call pay bands or pay grades within organizations. This is an example from a community bank, and you can see that we're just showing two pay grades, 1 and 2. And you can see that pay grade 1 is a lower compensation grade ranging from 17,000 to 19,000, whereas pay grade number 2 has a little bit higher pay, and you see that can go, basically in the $22,000 range. And you have what's called a family of jobs that they're not necessarily have to be related, but they're similar. They're on the same level in terms of complexity and value that they add to the organization, or uh, what people should be compensated for, the types of activities that they engage in. So here we have 4 different types of jobs that all fall in band number 1. And here we have 6 types of jobs that fall within band number 2. Okay, and then depending on what a person's experience level is, their performance evaluations, and a host of other individual factors, a person can be paid somewhere within that range. So you would say this is the typical pay for that job, but we could pay as low as $15,600 or as high as $22,400. And if we look at this section over here for the pay band, the band can go as low as $17,966 all the way up to $26,950. So the midpoint, are these numbers here. So this provides a range, 1 for the overall band, and 2 for all the jobs that fit within that band. So once a person starts to approach the top end of the band, then the odds of them getting continual raises and everything else begin. Basically, once you hit the top of that band, you're not going to get raises anymore, most likely. It just doesn't work that way. What you need to do at that point is look for a promotion. So you can go from, say, band 1, you're getting paid $22,400, and you are a proof machine operator. Well, what you need to do if you want to get paid more is that you need to be able to jump up to band number 2. So you need to start looking for and applying for band level 2 band jobs within the organization. Just a point to the wise, when you're out negotiating salaries for post-college work, or actually any salary when you're going to go start a new job, you want to understand that behind the scenes there's an HR band and jobs that fall within that band. There's a high and a low point for those bands. If you do a really good job of negotiating your job and you negotiate your compensation to be right at the top of that band, then once you start working, you realize that everybody else is getting maybe a 6 or 7% raise and you're only getting a 2% raise. You should realize that you're already at the top of your band, so there may not be much room left at all for you to get more raises. And instead, what you need to look at doing is jumping to the next band level. Broad banding is the practice of using fewer pay grades. Now, in the past, there were companies would have a lot of bands. They may have 10, 15, or more different bands. Broad banding is the concept of using fewer bands and putting jobs more so all in the same family groups and having the minimum and the maximum payoff for those jobs kind of correspond with that. What this does is it allows for horizontal or flatter organizations. It allows for decision making to be made faster, for there to be more flexibility, and for people to move between jobs a little bit easier. This slide is we're talking about some standard pay adjustments. These are typical ways where people would get a increase in compensation. One, seniority. The longer you are with the company, typically the more you may get in terms of compensation and or raises. Cost of living adjustments. This is an adjustment that's commonly given across everybody in the organization. It's just saying, hey, inflation is continuing to go up. The cost of living is going to go up basically every year. Therefore, we're going to increase your salary to match with that cost of living adjustment. Across the board increases, this is where we give a certain pay increase to everybody across the board in regards to what position that they're in. And then lump sum increases, this where we give a one-time lump sum. So think of like this would be a sign-on bonus for persons coming into the organization for the first time. That wraps it up for this lecture. If you have any questions, be sure to send me an email. Thank you very much and have a good day.